Well, I couldn't be more excited than I am to have our next guest here in the studio and on the Academy. An incredible friend of my wife and I, and a mentor throughout the years. Excited to have a conversation and a sit down with the one and only Sharon Lechter. She is an internationally recognized financial literacy expert, keynote speaker, business mentor. She's a 5-time New York Times bestselling author, and most everybody will recognize her from either Think and Grow Rich for Women, which we'll get into, but so many of us as real estate agents, we are very familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You co-authored the book. So let's jump into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Obviously, this is the book. Everybody, and if you have not read it, if you've not purchased it as a real estate wealth manager, I highly, highly recommend that you do, because if you haven't read it and you're working with investors, I can guarantee you that they have this in their library. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Mike. Delighted to be here.
All right, so let's just start off. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. A juggernaut, obviously a best-selling book, probably 100 times over. But I always like to hear the impetus of the story. Like where did Rich Dad, Poor Dad come from?
Well, I have to start with how I grew up, Mike, because I was given the gift of a household, parents that were entrepreneurs. We lived in a little tiny house between my mom's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot. And we had rental properties that I had to scrub out the bathrooms at the age of 10 between tenants. I swore I would never be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a sophisticated professional. So I was the first one in my family generation to go to college. Got only woman in my accounting classes, and one of the very first women in public accounting in Atlanta, Georgia. And I really wanted to be that career person in a professional position that, retired as a partner and, had the gold ring. And about the ripe old age of 25, my parents started looking a whole lot smarter, because I wasn't in control of my life. I was working incredibly long hours, but I learned a lot. I mean, I saw how companies succeeded, and probably more importantly, I saw how they failed. But I realized the gift that I had been given. We talked about assets. We talked about cash flow, depreciation at the dinner table. And I didn't realize until, in my mid-20s that most people had no clue what we were talking about. And I really started a mission back then to really help people understand the importance of buying, building, and creating assets. Fast forward a few years, I met my husband, we got married, we had kids. And it was our oldest son who went to college here in Arizona, ASU, went in September, came home in December in credit card debt. I was so mad at him, but I was more mad at myself. He got to campus, and there was a table, free T-shirt, free money, free pizza, free money. And so he had a really good time his first semester in college. Came home in December and asked us to bail him out, which we did not do. But that was December of 1992, and I dedicated the rest of my career to financial education, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship, and helping people understand the importance of not having an employee mentality, to really understand the importance of creating assets that are income producing in your portfolio. So fast forward a few years, my husband called me and he said, I met this guy today that has this idea that I think is what you've been looking for. And so I met Robert Kiyosaki at a beta test for his idea for the board game Cash Flow. Well, I had just...
I still have that book, or that game. Yep.
Yeah, I had just finished selling a company with the inventor of the first talking children's book that we had grown into a global brand. So I understood manufacturing, I understood licensing. We did deals with Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street. And so because his idea for the game, which was drawn out on a piece of butcher block paper with crayons, and the different playing pieces.
Kind of like Southwest Airlines. It all started with a napkin,
yes.
Right?
Well, and different caliber bullets were the playing pieces. It was like first impression, not so good. But the concept behind the game was exactly what I was teaching. So I volunteered to help him commercialize it based on my contacts. And during that process, he told me he was going to charge $200 for it. And we're talking 1996.
$200 today for a game is a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really expensive. And I said, well, maybe, he says, I want it to be an investment. Well, it certainly will be, if you can get them to spend it. Why don't you write a brochure to help explain the philosophy behind the board game? And so that's when he asked me to be his partner. And together we wrote that brochure. And that brochure was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is actually the first edition of the book of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We never expected for it to take a life of its own. We never expected to sell over 30 million copies. We wanted it to help sell the game. And so in doing it, but it was lessons that Robert had learned from his father and his best friend's father combined with the lessons that I learned from my father. And so we started off with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, then we thought we'd do a trilogy, and then because of the demand, we ended up writing 15 books together, and in 10 years we were partners. And then I started another series of book called Rich Dad Advisors. During that time, we ended up exploding around the world, 110 countries, over 50 languages, and literally built the world's largest personal finance brand. And because it was the right message at the right time, people were, it's just criminal that we're not teaching people about money in school, and it's still something that I'm working on today, because we're taught to be employees. We're taught to make money and spend it. Well, the thing that will create financial independence is assets. Buy, build, or create income-producing assets. So it's not what you do for your paycheck that determines your financial future. It's what you do with your paycheck. And that simple concept is the difference between being financially stable or financially devastated.
I think for a lot of people that concept can be a little bit abstract, because if you don't have a goal in mind and you get a paycheck, you look at that paycheck and you don't know what to do with it. And that's what, when we work with, our clients and investors, we always have in mind, what does that next investment property look like? Where's it at? How much is it going to cost? And how much are you going to have to save to be able to take that next step in building wealth in real estate, or whatever the case is? I'm a real estate guy, but I think that's an important component, because now if I know that my next property is going to cost, I need $25,000 for my next investment property. Now, when I look at my paycheck, I can now intelligently take a look at it and start divvying it up, rather than just, oh, here's a paycheck, I don't know what to do with it, I'm just going to save some.
And that's the process that people need to understand. But what happens is there's a lot of people that tell you what to do with your money. Very few of them are the right decisions for you.
My wife tells me what to do with my money.
There's a lot of people that want your money. And, a lot of young people today are spending a lot of money that they don't even have. The credit card debt exceeded $1 trillion in August and continuing to go up. And it's really, it breaks my heart. But, we're talking to a group of real estate agents here. You are so well suited to be able to build your own personal wealth, because you're the first to know. You've got properties out there that you can identify. And what happens is, particularly with real estate agents, you get these big commissions and then nothing for a few months, and then you wait for the next commission. And so we have this, this problem of not maintaining our own financial health, because we have this, we have dry periods and we have wet periods, and we spend way too much money. And it's really important to understand, use the knowledge that you have, the resources that you have, the associations that you have, to focus on building your own financial house, not somebody else's, but your own financial house.
And I think also one of the greatest advantages that we have as real estate agents is the fact that we have real estate licenses. So number one, we're out in the trenches. And when you're out in the trenches and you talk to enough people, opportunities present themselves. I get opportunities that the traditional person would not see, because they're not in that day-to-day real estate conversation business like I am. And then number two, and I think there were some recent guidelines changes for some of our loan programs, agents can use 100% of their commissions now to buy a property, whether it's going towards down payment, or whether it's going down closing costs. In the past, there were depending on the loan program, that there were caps, And now if I'm going to buy a property and there's a commission on the table, I might as well take that and leverage that to acquire property. And if someone who doesn't have a real estate license doesn't have that advantage or that benefit.
That's right. Part of it is, it's the mindset of immediate gratification. People get a large commission, they want to buy something. Instead, put that off and invest it in something else so that when you do decide to buy it, you still have the property generating the income. And 90% of the world's millionaires, Mike, either made their money in real estate or they hold their money in real estate. That's a figure that should tell you something. So you're already in the best position possible because you're a real estate agent. You have access to information. You have access to those conversations you just talked about. There are real estate investment groups you can belong to educate yourself. Understand the tax impact, the tax benefits of investing in real estate. Real estate is not going to go away. And people say, well, what if the value goes down? Well, I say, if you buy a property, it's the cash flow that determines the success of your property. You have positive cash flow. Yeah, the valuation fluctuates, but you only get hurt if you sell it. Of course, loans have certain loan-to-value things that can get in your way, but you want to make sure that the numbers work based on income, expenses, tax benefit to say this property is going to help you accelerate your wealth.
Well, I think the other thing too is if you're an agent or you're an investor and you're looking at an investment property and it's a great property, but you don't have the cash, doesn't mean that cash is not out there. And so you got to be creative. Your husband wrote probably, I would say, the most influential book that I've ever read the title to. Never read the book. It was the title. And it literally, I think about it, I talk about it all the time, and it was OPM, Other People's Money.
You should have read the book.
I know. I didn't need to. I got everything that I needed from
the title's good, but the contents are even better.
But yeah, and so there's always money out there. Yeah. You gotta as an investor, you've got to just learn where it's all at.
Well, you have to be somebody that is trustworthy.
True.
Because there's a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. There's a lot of people looking for investments. And so if you have the opportunity, the resources, and the source of information, you can always find the money.
All right, so right now we are facing, whether we're agents or we're talking with investors or even home buyers right now. I remember my parents bought their first house, $39,000 in Southern California, right? And they sold it, who knows when, for $850,000. Their first interest rate was 18%. Years later, they refinanced it, and I remember we went out to dinner and we celebrated because they refinanced it down to 13%. Now, at the time that we've recorded this, interest rates are somewhere around high sevens to very, very low eights, but interest rates are becoming something that we are scared of. That's paralyzing us, keeping us to going in there, going into the game and acquiring property or advising our clients. And we have a saying, money never disappears, it just moves. And so you've always got to follow those opportunities. As an investor, do rates scare you, or what advice do you have us to put things into perspective when it comes down to interest rates?
What scares me is the mindset of people who don't really understand the numbers. It's not the numbers. The numbers tell a story. And if you do the numbers, you'll know whether property is good. Right now, people are frightened. Sellers are frightened that they have locked in 3.5%, 4%, and they want to sell their house, but they know if they sell it, the house they're going to buy is going to be at 8%. So they're afraid to sell. They decide they're going to stay in their house, which brings down the supply of inventory. A buyer who's desperate to buy a house now is looking at 8%. They can't buy as big a house as they wanted, and so they're feeling like they can't afford the house they want. So what we're seeing is this huge gap between supply and demand. The demand is there. The resources aren't there yet because of the interest rates. So we have to get that gap to close. Or what's happening right now is there's been an increase in new home starts because the builders are saying, okay, now's the time we can get back into this. But even the builders are being cautious because they have to pay more for their money for construction. And so it's one of those things where you have to really be paying attention and do the numbers. Because at 8%, you can still make a lot of money if it's the right property at the right price with the right rent. So just because it's 8% doesn't mean you can't find a good deal.
I have a client right now. He's almost engaged, and they want to go out. They want to buy a home, and the home that they can see themselves living in is somewhere between 400 to 425, but they can't afford that payment. Okay, and they're really struggling with the payment because of interest rates. But they could afford homes, and there are homes in this area that are, $325,000. But they're like, well, that's not really the house that we want to live in, and that's not our dream home. Am I wrong to tell them, listen, this is about wealth. This is about long term.
Reality.
There is no home. I tell people go, I'm looking for the perfect home. You could go out right now, Sharon, and you could give me $20 million, the blueprints, everything you want into that home. I'll build you that perfect home. You move in, and 2 days later, and you're like, oh, we forgot this and we forgot that. It's no longer your perfect home, right? There's really no such thing, in my opinion. But I would say for investors, young investors, first-time home buyers, whatever the case is, get something because you're now investing in an appreciating asset. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, and part of that is an unfortunate issue with our younger generation because they want everything perfect, and it's something that we've done that as parents to them. We've given everything they needed was perfect, and so they need to realize that they have to work a little bit for it. And if they buy something that's 80% there, they have the ability to let their income increase so they can make the adjustments to get it to exactly where they want it to be. But it's you learn lessons in life by making mistakes. And it's really important for people to look and say, what is right? Maybe that couple needs to buy that $300,000 house and rent it to someone and help them start building their real estate portfolio. And then, or tell them to buy the $300,000 house, live in it for 2 years.
Thank you.
And then their interest rates may or may not be lower, and they can buy the $400,000. So use it as the $350,000 house as a stepping stone to the $450,000 house.
Well, I did call her. As a matter of fact, I did talk to them this morning to kind of have that same conversation, and she told me she quit her job. So conversation's over. We're helping them find a rental. I can't.
As the world turns,
I can't make
right?
this stuff up. As an investor yourself, what is your? I can only imagine the amount of opportunities and the people that come to you with real estate investment opportunities and so forth. What does your buy box look like? What does your process look like when you and Michael sit down and go, okay, let's see whether this would be worth considering pursuing, putting it into our real estate portfolio? What does that look like for the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Well, it's kind of a multi-part answer because Michael is 74. I am going to be 70 in January.
You don't look a day over 32, Sharon.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want that recording. And so
Make it your ringtone.
We are adjusting our entire portfolio because we don't want to leave headaches for our children. And so we are in a lot of long-term development programs. We're building a whole new city in southern Arizona. We're a partner in that, a partner in some of the Interstate 11 developments. And so we have shifted a lot of what we invest in into long-term syndications and syndications for multifamily housing so that we are less hands-on than we've ever been. It actually feels kind of good.
Yeah.
But that's not what I teach, obviously. The more, when you're in there doing it, you learn the lessons. But I want to be honest in my answer to you. We've just been meeting with our estate attorney. We're making shifts in our portfolio to make sure that should something happen to us, our children are not blindsided with a bunch of headaches. So.
All right, we are at the end of the day, and I think for a lot of agents, they don't understand that when they get their real estate license and they start in real estate, I like to refer to them as they're real estate entrepreneurs. We are entrepreneurs because as a real estate agent, we are running our own business. And I think there needs to be that aha moment for every single agent to realize, okay, though my license says I'm a real estate salesperson, and that's Arizona specific, I am running my own business. There are times I'm the receptionist, I'm the janitor, I'm the CFO, I'm the CMO, I'm in charge of business development, and oh, by the way, I'm in charge of the closing table as well. But you mentor and coach and train some of the biggest entrepreneurs that the world has ever seen, and you constantly do it. And for me, it's one of your areas of specialty of helping somebody understand what entrepreneurship is, embrace entrepreneurship, and operate your business like a business owner and entrepreneur. But I also know you work with a ton of real estate agents. What are some of the mistakes or the tips or whatever the case is that we are making as real estate entrepreneurs? Because I know it's gotta just make you want to grab people by the ears and shake them.
Drives me nuts. Yeah. There's a term called Henry, high earner, not rich yet.
Okay.
High earner, not rich yet, Henry. And there are a lot of real estate agents that are Henrys. They aren't reinvesting in themselves. They get a big paycheck, they spend it. They get a big commission, they spend it. What a wonderful opportunity to get that commission and put money aside. I say the same thing about athletes. They get these multi-million-dollar contracts. Let's put 20% of it into an irrevocable trust that's going to take care of you so you don't live under a bridge. Have some fun with the other piece, but that people, I need more people listening to me. But real estate agents are particularly well suited to build their own personal wealth because they, as we've talked already, they have access to the information. But sometimes fear gets in the way. And you don't feel, you say, I'm an agent, but I don't know how to do that. I don't want people to know I don't know something. And that's the time, maybe your first deal should be in a partnership with someone who's a seasoned real estate investor that's willing to show you the ropes to get you in. Maybe you don't have the full down payment, but you have a little and you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work. I've done deals with people where I'm the money partner and they're the elbow grease partner, and it works out really well, all right? So you define the way that you can contribute, find someone that can also contribute, and do a deal together so that you learn on a project that may be small, but you make all your mistakes with a small amount of money so that when you're ready, you can start building a real estate portfolio.
That's amazing advice. We're going to just take that snippet out and just preach that everywhere. What about the aspect of running a business? I am a business owner. I'm running a business.
How long do you have?
We got as long as you want. I don't know where you've got to be. I've got cocktails in the room next door.
Obviously, that's a huge passion of mine and a lot of what I do. Mike and I talk to a lot of people about the essential components of a successful business. Most people who think they are entrepreneurs, they think they're business owners, really own a job, not a business. Because they have not taken the time to build the structure of the business, to have the right legal entity, to build the systems. So the test between a small business owner and a real business owner is, can you leave your business and come back 6 months later and it's stronger than when you left, all right? And most real estate agents are solopreneurs,
Yeah.
all right? And as a solopreneur, you can still make a lot of money, but let's create the systems and bring in the team members to help you manage your real estate portfolio and have the structure of your business so that you have procedures, you have due diligence checklists, you have all of that put together so that other people can join you and understand how you operate your business, operating procedures, not just hit and miss. Because a lot of solopreneurs think, I have to do it all myself.
I find here in Arizona, because I spent so many years on the corporate side in the real estate world, as an executive vice president of the largest brokerages in Arizona, and just, watching thousands of agents operate their business. And one thing that I've learned, and I don't know if it's like this in the rest of the country, but in Arizona, to me, agents are just inherently cheap. Like, they won't spend money on education. I offered a class, and I sent an email, and a guy goes back and goes, "Is there going to be food?" I'm like, I'm the wrong guy for you. Like, and we're kindred spirit, I guess, because it sounds like something I would say. But like, if your determining factor to come to a class is are we serving food, we're, you know, but but you talk about systems and things like that. I just don't know how an agent achieves it without having some sort of team environment, mentorship, coach. I had a coach from day one. I gave him 50% of every transaction for the first 3 years. The best money that I've ever spent. I'm 20 plus years in the business, and I still have a coach.
The most successful real estate companies out there have established mentoring systems. And what you want to do is when you participate in those, you're learning from people who've been there, done that. And you want to turn around and do the same thing for people that you bring into the business. And that's something that that's what creates duplication, the ability to duplicate yourself, is having those systems, having that education. So that it's not hit and miss, but you have a procedure, you have a way that you operate.
I love it.
And that's something, a lot of people say, well, my broker does that. Well, no, that's not the broker's is to make sure that you're not putting them at risk. You want to have the procedures so that you have the ability to expand your business.
And I'm not sure if it means that I've arrived, but my coaching sessions now and my coach are now over cigars and bourbon. So I feel like, I've gotten somewhere. I play a little game. This might be a tough one. If you just like snap of the finger, got transported to Albuquerque, New Mexico, no family, no friends, I gave you an active real estate license and $1,000, how would you get going?
I would probably find, this might be a little off the wall for you, but I would probably find the largest charitable organization in the city that meets my personal needs.
Okay.
And I would volunteer there to start meeting people that are their big donors. And we have my real estate license, and I would start talking to them about my passion for the organization, which is the same as theirs, and tell them that I'm new to town and I'm a real estate agent and would love to see if they could introduce me to some people.
That's perfect because it's all about relationships. Most agents will say, I'm going to do Facebook ads. I'm going to do neighborhood mailers and stuff like that. I got $1,000. I got $1,000 to build relationships with people. All right. One of the most exciting things I think that you've done obviously in 2008, and it's hard to top Rich Dad Poor Dad because of the influence, but in 2008, obviously the economy crashed, and you were asked by the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And if you're listening to this and watching this, and you have no idea what the Napoleon Hill Foundation is, just shut it off and go and Google it because it's gonna change your life. But they wanted you to re-energize the teachings of Napoleon Hill, and so that included you writing some books called 3 Feet from Gold, Outwitting the Devil, Success and Something Greater, and one of the most influential books out there for women called Think and Grow Rich for Women. Talk to us about that because, one, it's kind of like a misnomer. Guys are going to think, oh my gosh, I'm just turning this off because it's not for me, but there's a lot of value for us as men. But walk us through what Think and Grow Rich for Women is and the impact that it's had on the globe.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, I love the book. It's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill was released in 1937. There were no women in business, so there's very few references to women in the book. And yet I read it when I was 19. For many years, I resisted doing anything specifically for women because I said, I made it. Steps to success are the same for men and women. Sometimes you just have to work a little harder. And so, as I got a little more seasoned and mature in my career, I started realizing that even though the steps are the same, that men and women approach them very differently. And so when I had the opportunity to take this incredible book, Think and Grow Rich, and really follow the same chapter outline, but look at it through the eyes of successful businesswomen, it was such an incredible honor and eye-opening. And so I follow the same chapter outline. I have women tell their stories based on those attributes in Think and Grow Rich on how they achieve success. I have over 300 women in the book, and it was such a fun project, but it's such a depth of material because as you read the book, you're going to see a story that makes no sense to you. Easy for her to say, but the next one you can say, if she did that, I could do that too. So just creating that fertile idea, planting seeds in your subconscious is helping women find that internal power, internal motivation, internal opportunity to take the right steps for themselves. And it's just been so well received, and I'm so proud of it because it is not just for women. I mean, men are reading it and saying, I understand my daughters better, I understand
Well,
my wife.
in our space in real estate, a lot of us have partnered with our spouses. A lot of male agents who are watching this have got their spouses or daughters that are partners in their real estate business, and having a resource to be able to understand and then come together as a more powerful team. I think this book offers a lot for that.
Yeah, and part of it is, I found a study by the University of Pennsylvania, and it did brain scans of men and women, and I just love it. It's hysterical.
I don't want a brain
men
scan
tend
of
to
my
hang
brain.
out in one side of their brain or the other, and which makes you more decision makers. They you typically can read a map better than women, except for my husband. But but you're more decisive. As women, when we're looking at something, we go all over the place, right brain, left brain. It's like we have a super highway between our two brains. You guys have like a little channel, all right? And it's because we're better problem solvers. And when something is going wrong in the family, who do people go to?
I agree.
Mom.
You're not gonna
Mom.
get an
We're the
argument out of
problem
me.
solvers. We're better multitaskers. But the downside of that is we become analysis paralysis because we can't make a decision. So that's why when you bring men and women together, you get the greatest results because the women are doing the problem solving, they're doing the research, they're doing the analysis, and the guys come in and say, okay, let's make a decision. And that's typically how it is. Now, somebody out there is going to get angry because I'm generalizing, but live with it. So, but at the end of the day, the book shows that, and it also chastises women that are out there complaining and criticizing. And I said, we need to change the dialogue from complaining and criticizing the men that stand in our way to one of celebrating those men that support us and celebrating the progress we've made. Because when you complain and criticize, and if you follow the law of attraction, you're attracting negative results. Let's forget the criticism, the complaining. Let's start celebrating each other. And when we do that, we attract positive results. And that's really the main impact of the book. And we've seen such incredible response to it.
All right, and I know you're really excited about this. Your newest title, How Money Works for Women, published in July.
Yes, I'm so excited by this book. I'm just so proud of it. I did this with Kim Schooler, who's from Wealth Wave, and we co-wrote it. And it really was it's really a manual. It's all four-color. It's like a graphic novel. We have avatars of women from the age 19 to 86, 9 different women, somebody from every decade, talking about the things that women face that create financial struggles. The first one is, applying for college. Well, obviously that's male and female. Then one is talking about starting a business, planning for a wedding. One is a woman that has been married in an abusive relationship, gets out of it, has children, and is having to recreate her life and the issues and the resources that she needs to get started over. Because most domestic abuse issues include financial abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one where a woman that has a special needs child. It's something that's so difficult. And so we talk about how to control the emotions, how to find the resources. We have one where a woman has been married for 25 years, thinks that her future is planned with her spouse, and he comes home and asks for a divorce. And she's left